Welcome to this demonstration video for autox. Autox is a 3D configurator in Autodesk Inventor of a tubular heat exchanger. A configurator is a 3D parametric model with the interface of a form, enabling the user to enter parameters and select configurations. So the objective of this demonstration is to look at the tube sheet form, make some changes to the number of tubes, see the update, look at the tank design and form, then see all this on the drawing. So let's take a look at the form. So this is the form of the Tubesheet Layout. So this demonstration is just to give an overview and demonstrate the functionality of configuring the tube sheet. So as you can see, we're looking at a rotated triangular tube arrangement. Obviously there will be configurators for other arrangements. So looking at the form, you can see we have tube OD, the hole fit, the resulting hole diameter, horizontal pitch, vertical pitch, the pitch location. The OTL or outer tube limit is displayed and is on a drop down, so to correlate this to the number of tubes, there is a provided file so you can establish the maximum tube count for every OTL. So you can establish which OTL is closest to the number of tubes you are looking for. If you also need a specific number and need to suppress holes, there is a facility to do that as well, which we'll take a look at later. The number of tubes is displayed here. The distance between the OTL and gasket diameter can be adjusted, and the gasket face diameter is displayed here and is currently rounded in increments of 1/4 of an inch. Where the tie rods intersect the tube holes, these are automatically removed, and you can see there is a clearance distance around the tie rod hole. The number of tie rods can be entered, the tie rod size. This is where the tie rod clearance is entered, the distance between the tie rod and the OTL, the tie rod start angle is based upon whether the impingement plate is required or not. If it is, then the tie rods will automatically start from the impingement plate, and any tube holes at or intersecting the impingement plate will be removed. If the impingement plate is not required, then a desired start angle can be entered. The impingement plate distance can be entered here, again if required. So now let's look at changing the number of tubes and letting that update. So currently we have a horizontal and vertical pitch of 26 with an OTL of 344 and a tube count of 141. I'm going to go ahead and close the form and take a look at the provided max tube count file. So on the form we can see that when we have an OTL of 344, we've got an actual tube count of 147. So we go ahead and close the form and go back to the original file and go back to the form. So an OTL of 344, you can see we have a tube count of 141. That's because at the tie rod locations where the tubes are intersecting, they're automatically removed. So if I close the form, you can see that on the tube sheet where the tube holes are intersecting the tie rods, they've been automatically removed. That's why we have a tube count of 141. Okay, let's go back to the form, and not only are we going to look at changing the number of tubes, but we're going to also change the pitch, so we can look at how the max tube count file changes. So I'm going to change this, both the pitches, the horizontal and the vertical. I'm going to change this to say 25 and say 28, and then go ahead and apply that. Okay, now that that's updated, you can see we've got a OTL of 356, and when updating the number of tubes, we have a tube count of 143. I'm going to go and see if I can find an OTL to get a number of tubes around 100. So let's close the form and look at the provided max tube count file. First we need to update this file to reflect that it has the same vertical and horizontal pitch. Okay, once that's updated, let's open the form. So this has been broken up into different ranges, and per ranges has also been broken up. This is in order to give you quicker update times. You may need to update more than one of these depending on what number you're trying to achieve, and these aren't necessarily in order. So we're after around 100 tubes. You can see none of these are under 100. So I'm going to go ahead and update this one first, as this one's close to 100. Okay, once that's updated, let's go to the drop down. So you can see we've got 103 tubes. That will give us an OTL of 299. So let's close this and go back to our Tubesheet file. Okay, let's go ahead and open the form. Okay, now we can change our OTL to achieve our 103 tubes. So we're looking for 299. Okay, there it is. And let's go ahead and apply that. Okay, once that's updated, let's update the number of tubes. So now you can see we have a tube count of 103. There's no tubes that are intersecting with the tie rod holes. Based on this distance, we now have a gasket face diameter of 13 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and close the form. As you can see, the tube sheet is updated. So now let's look at the facility for removing a hole to achieve a specific number. So open the form, turn on the hole tube markers, close the form. So if we want to remove this hole here, simply right click on the marker, suppress the feature, which removes the hole. Let's go ahead, open the form, let's update the number of tubes. So now we have 102. If we want to reset the markers and the hole tubes, click this here, and finally turn the tube markers off. Let's update the number of tubes again. We have 103. Now let's look at the tank design. First I'll open the assembly file. First let's update the model as it would change based on the inputs we changed on the tube sheet. Then go ahead and save. So as you can see, we're looking at single pass, but there will be other configurators for double, etc. So let's take a look at the form. So on the tank design, there are more parameters you can change related to the flange size, the bolt hole size, quantity, offset, various thicknesses, shell size, overall size, shell thickness, impingement plate thickness and width, all the parameters related to the baffles, all the parameters related to the saddle supports, all the parameters related to the various nozzles. So I'm not looking to change anything here, I'm really just focusing on the tube sheet, so this is just to give you an overview. So now let's take a look at the overview of the drawing. So let's close the form and open the drawing file. Okay, now we have the drawing open. Let's update the sheets. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, let's zoom on the bill of materials. So you can see that we have a count of 103 for our tubes. Let's just take a look at the other sheets. You can see we've updated the drawing based on the Tubesheet inputs. So thank you for taking the time to view this demo, and if your company is interested in adding this configurator, please contact me at the email below.